everybody, Jeff, your executive gardener here. Hey, as you know, I'm in Houston, Zone 8B, close to Zone 9, and we're wrapping up tomatoes for this year. So the season is au revoir, done, which is kind of humorous for me because I look at other people in Zones 3, 4, 5, and 6, and they're just getting started. Their buds are starting to flower and so forth. But I've got an unbelievable harvest this year, best year I've had in 2 or 3 years, and all I can say is I learned from my mistakes and I learned from others on YouTube. YouTube gardening community is a great gardening community to learn things. So I'm going to ramble a little bit about my tomato season this year. And again, I'm shutting it down. I'm picking most of my tomatoes. And the reason is in Houston, I get this question asked a lot. When you grow tomatoes, just beautiful big red tomatoes, tomatoes like heat, but they don't like too much heat, depending on the variety. And also, if it doesn't get below 70, 75 at night, your buds, your flowers of the tomatoes will not pollinate and turn into fruit. So it's getting too hot here, and we'll replace the tomato plants with pepper plants, okra, watermelon, other summer-loving crops. And then we can then, in Zone 8B or 9, if you live in tropical climates like Southern Cal, Louisiana, Georgia, Southern Florida, Houston, we can then start up in the fall. So let me just ramble a little bit and tell you about the season. And it was really a successful season. So I planted about 3 or 4 hybrid. I did an F1 patio tomato. I did some burpee dwarf tomatoes. I did a boxcar willy. I did a black seaman tomato. I did a beefsteak tomato. I did a new big dwarf tomato. So a lot of different varieties, and I'll tell you what I learned about each. But I've got more tomatoes than I know what to do with. I'll give you a close-up of the tomatoes I have, both in the greenhouse and outside the greenhouse. And and I apologize for some background noise. My air conditioner's off, but my neighbor's aren't, and I don't control his air conditioning, so I apologize about the side noise that just kicked on. But anyway, the few things I learned just about this year is watch my earlier videos. Proper, number one, starting the tomatoes early. So I prefer not to go to your local garden center, Home Depot or Lowe's, and pick seedlings. And the reason why is that you don't know what they were started with, if they were started with chemical fertilizer. Not that chemical fertilizer is bad. I use a little bit of it to get a boost, to get a catalyst to get the thing going. But I mostly rely on organic matter, like a lot of you. But I buy my seeds online because I start them off early. I started off early in, I'd say, February, late January this year, indoor grow tent, and it gave them exactly what they needed. I also use for my seedlings worm castings, which I think built-in protection, the bacteria and so forth that's built into worm castings provides a little bit of disease prevention for your plants. And really, we had historical rains here in Houston this year, and I'm wondering if the worm castings that I used early on built up a bit of an immunity to some of the disease like blight and so forth that hamper tomato plants. And I didn't buy disease-resistant tomato plants, but for all the rain I got very little blight in my tomatoes. So very successful. So I started my seeds early. I got them outside. The other thing is I protected them. So many people lose tomatoes to birds and other pests, and I have a completely enclosed in bin here, and I have a greenhouse, so I don't give the birds or other pests any chance of getting to the tomatoes, and I maximize my yield. I did that. I also used weed cloth, as you see from an earlier episode. Huge help. And a few weeds here and there that pop through, but mostly no weeds. Also, the hybrid tomatoes. Be careful about growing hybrid tomatoes, or I should say, determinate tomatoes, because they all come in at once, and you'll get 50 tomatoes at once. So make sure you have enough friends to give them to, because we just got way too many, and we were very popular with a lot of our friends. The other thing is I did a good job this year of putting a good amount of organic matter, compost, and manure down in my garden. So the nitrogen amount was appropriate. I did supplement it with some phosphorus and potassium, but overall it kept the plants very healthy. But a bumper crop all around this year. I will tell you, my most prolific plant, tomato plant here in 8B Houston, was the Boxcar Willie. Boxcar Willie is a tomato I'm holding in my hand. It was excellent. It actually also did very well with all the rain. A lot of my determinate or hybrid tomatoes did split, but my Boxcar Willie tomatoes, very little splitting whatsoever. So the skin was able to absorb all the moisture and didn't split. The best tasting tomato of all my crops this year by far was a Black Seaman. If you haven't got the Black Seaman tomato, get it. It's incredible. Very beefy, good size, 8 to 10 ounce fruits. It was excellent. My largest tomato of the year was the new Big Dwarf. My tomato was 14.86 ounces, very meaty, very beefy. It is an heirloom tomato, so it looks a little funky, but awesome tomato. So that's what I did. So that's a little ramble about my tomatoes. I'll give you a close-up again. In a week or two, I'm shutting it down for the year, and I'll start up sowing seeds inside probably in August and September. And in Houston Zone 8B, we can have a fall crop of tomatoes because we don't get a frost probably till late December, or any chance of a frost till late December. So that's that. Let me give you a close-up of some of my tomato plants. I hope you've enjoyed this season. It's been a bumper crop for me for tomatoes. And again, watch some of my earlier videos. You can see some of the proper fertilization I did, starting seeds indoors early and all that, and it led to a great crop, my best crop in 3 seasons. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me show you a close-up of some of the tomatoes that I have on my plants that I'll pick off before the end of this weekend. Now here's a beefsteak tomato. I didn't, for whatever reason, the beefsteak tomato, you can see there's tomatoes everywhere, very prolific. You know, they're not the size of most beefsteak tomatoes, but I did get a lot, so I'm not quite sure, you know, what went on there, but they were very prolific. This is the Boxcar Willie. Again, starting to get a little bit of disease because it's late in the season. For the most part, it's held up, but just very big, red, juicy tomatoes. I've already picked a lot of them, but just got a ton of them. Here's one right here. You can see a close-up. Look how perfect that tomato is. You see the skin stretched a little bit here from the rain, but it did not break. And look, it doesn't get any better than that. This is probably an 8 to 9 ounce tomato. Just perfect. Right off the vine. I'll put some mozzarella with this, some basil, and have a caprese salad. So very good, and it's still producing, as you can see, some green tomatoes. So, but for the most part, it's going to slow down. You can see up at the top there, you know, we do have some buds, but we'll have to see if they turn into tomatoes again. I think it's getting just too hot for the season. This was, you know, the Black Seaman tomato, again, the best tasting tomato by far. There's one left I have here, and maybe a few buds that I have, but and I can see a few more starting right there, which is kind of cool. But not too prolific, but best tasting tomato by far. The new Big Dwarf is this one right here. I've got some green ones that, thank goodness, so I can space out the amount of tomatoes I have, but there's 2. What's missing there is I took off the 14.86 pounder. That one's gone. I have a green one back there, but it looks like I could get some more tomatoes from this. I am actually, which is cool. But pretty soon, like I said, it's going to stop budding. So this is all the tomatoes that I have. Take a look. Still got a ton of them. I have to pick them and give them to a lot of friends. But overall, you can see, I mean, very little blight, very little disease from the tomato plants this year, and I think, you know, maybe growing them in worm castings early may have helped out. So kind of cool. And I have one little heirloom that's still hanging on, and some tomatoes that are one hybrid dormant, determinate tomato that's hanging on. Let me show you one more thing, which is my small flower house and what's going on with the F1 patio dwarfs, and I'll wrap it up. So I talked about this a little bit, but and I hate to be repetitive, but this little flower house I got on Amazon.com for 30 or 40 bucks, and I got to tell you, great investment. So in here I put, there's a meshed in screen here that zips from the bottom, And inside I grew F1 patio tomatoes, and look at that, guys, and ladies, I should say. You know, the tomatoes grew very well. They were protected from all the rain, and they split a little bit, but a lot of tomatoes there. But then there's some green ones you can see growing as well. So this is kind of exciting because I put dishes on the bottom that gives them plenty of water. But this inside tent is just incredible because it gets them the sunlight they need. And it really is completely protected from the birds, which, you know, will just destroy your plants, your tomatoes, excuse me. So this is the F1 patio. Again, this is toward the end of the season, but what a great investment. If you look at flowerhouses.com, that's a free endorsement for them. Great deal. And you know, if you live in an apartment or a townhouse and you don't have a lot of room, this is what you can do. Put some dwarf tomatoes or some F1 patio tomatoes in this, water them once a day, fertilize them, and then you'll have fresh tomatoes for your salad. But this is one thing I learned, which I will do every year going forward. Small little investment up front, but it protects it from all the pests, and you can have tomatoes actually most of the year if you're living in my zone, except for, again, July, August, June, July, August, really, which is where we are right now. It's getting too hot. So that's that, guys. It's been a fun season. Growing tomatoes again. It's June 9th, June 10th now, and we are effectively shutting it down. Tomato season is over in Houston, Texas. We'll enjoy our harvest, and we'll start back up again planting seeds in August and September indoors. For everybody that is planting up in zones 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, good luck. Hope your crop was as good as mine was. Again, if you want to get details about all the stuff that I did to have a successful crop this year and what I've learned, watch the earlier videos. But that's it. Signing out for tomato season this year. Jeff, your executive gardener. Make it a great one. Bye.